live on LinkedIn, which is super exciting. I will tell you, as we all know, I do a lot of these webinars. I have my YouTube, all of these great things, podcasts. But today with Cody Horton, I cannot be happier to do this because we prepped a teensy bit yesterday because I have been looking for someone to share screen live, ChatGPT, and techniques, and no one wants a piece of that, but Cody does. And he is a whiz on this. And actually, if you do watch or listen to the podcast, Talent Takeover Unfiltered, he is a guest coming up soon where he's going to talk about even more ChatGPT stuff that I didn't know could do. So, Cody, I'm going to stop rambling. Please introduce yourself because you are quite accomplished in the recruiting industry in its entirety. You've had an exit. Let me hear more about you.
Hey, Brianna, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to do this with you. I've been wanting to do a talk with you or a demo with you for a couple of years. And so this is like living the dream right now.
Nice.
But I've spent a long time doing talent acquisition in the corporate world. Before I joined the corporate recruiting world, I was in the Navy for 14 years and always doing something a little technical. I got into corporate recruiting, did that for a number of years, focused on diversity and inclusion recruiting. It was a blast. I had so much fun. And then for the last 6 years, I built a diversity and inclusion sourcing company. We acted like a SaaS company, sourcing as a service. And now you're seeing a lot more of that. And it was amazing. Our company got acquired a couple of years ago. And now I've been doing more empowering people to change their lives by using technology, helping companies get better at inclusive hiring practices. And, I'm known for being that person who jumps into innovative technology before it's ready for prime time. And I'm a little bit of a geek in that way, but you can count on me to create use case scenarios where people can really have an impact. And that's what I've found with ChatGPT and other generative AI platforms.
I love that you say impact in the same sentence as ChatGPT and impact. This is not replacing us. This is just enhancing us to like our core. I love that. Before we move forward, please make sure that you're listening here. Let's connect. We are in talent acquisition, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just here to check out some ChatGPT. But let's connect because we are only as strong as our network. And I think that's a really important thing, especially now. And so connect here. We are going to take questions throughout. We do like to make this interactive for sure. We can have Cody slow down as well, as he's presenting. But this is amazing. Now, I do already see something that I can't help but talk to Cody about. AI is not trustworthy. I know we talked about this the other day. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, tools are only as good as you are able to use them, right? And so I wouldn't trust any technology 100%. What you have to do is you have to spend time with the product so you can understand, hey, these are some shortcomings for the product. Right now, that train has left the station, and it's up to us to really get better and make sure that we've got ethical use. We're checking it, because they'll make stuff up. ChatGPT will make some stuff up, and so you just have to challenge it and be mindful and intentional about how we're using it, right? Because it's not going to replace us. It's a thought partner for me, and I use it for many use case scenarios that are not necessarily recruiting related, and I can't trust 100% everything it does. But what I have done is I've created what I call my generative AI advisory group. And what it is, it's a number of AI platforms that I bounce the different topics off. And sometimes I get an answer that is counter to the original answer, but I just put them in all the different platforms and get responses from that, without losing the people part of it and, bouncing things off of humans. So it's as trustworthy as we're going to allow it to be. So that's
I love that answer. I'm even thinking about I don't even trust my Gmail all the time, right? So I think that's a big thing to think about. It's like, hey, is this spam? It's coming from Facebook, So there's all these things. It's like, look, we can't stop thinking as human beings. We have to keep pushing the envelope. And the bottom line is, how can we move faster and not reach burnout all the time, because as recruiters go, it's a heavy job. I mean, we're doing sales, marketing, we're brand ambassadors, we're now sleuths, in my opinion. We're searching out for people, but we're trying to find people that don't want to be found. And especially when we're talking about building a diverse team, that
Yeah.
does not mean we look in one place. That means we look all of the places, and it's a
Yeah.
lot more time consuming. And we want to be more thoughtful when we're sending messages, which means we have to read all of these profiles, we're not just trying to burn out messages. And so I think that's what's really cool about these tools, is it helps us make that sustainable and still do our job.
Yeah, you're spot on. I call my garage my intentional focus lab. I got a big
Mm,
whiteboard out there, and I write ideas. What the generative AI platforms do for me is they free me up to be more creative, which is the thing that recruiters and humans bring to the table, right? We're the
mhm,
ones that can solve problems and be empathetic and have those new ideas. And the generative AI is just, they're the worker bee. It's going out and doing all the things that I can't do as quickly. And that's really important. And you talked about inclusive hiring. Inclusive hiring is so critical. And a lot of times you hear complaints that, hey, the AI is biased. There is bias in everything we do, but it's up to us to be more inclusive. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we just do that. And when I go to inclusive hiring and diversity recruiting and all the things that are necessary, I tell people, fish in all the pools, but you can fish in each pool one at a time, which is what empowers you to create amazing Boolean search strings or looking communities. But you got to do them one at a time, and then you pull it all together. And I think the totality of that is what creates the inclusive and diverse recruiting efforts that so many of us are working on.
mhm. And it's also, when you think about the messaging that goes out, and thinking about how is our tone, and it's like, we could read it over and over again, especially like if we're busy, right? Oh, no, that sounds great. And it was like, oh, actually, let me ask, a bot, hey, how was my tone? Like, I mean, I even do that with Grammarly,
Yeah.
and adjusting tones and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff in AI that can help you do that. And it's more of just like a sniff check,
Yeah.
It's like, how does that sound? All right, like, am I on point here? I love that. Okay, so Cody, walk us through a little bit about, I think, what really diversity or inclusive sourcing, because I know, like, in my mind, I changed it to inclusive diversity sourcing. Like, we've called it all different things, but I think as the recruiting industry, we were kind of shook a little bit, maybe like 5 years ago, even though, what IBM came up with incredible, DEI plans a long time ago. I feel like it really came forward. I mean, is it 5 years ago at this point? What about for you? Like, how long do you feel like you've been in that?
Uh, Probably about 20 years I've been working on this, right? So
Right,
it's
right.
not going to be something that gets solved overnight,
Yeah.
right?
For
Just like,
no,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So it's just like it's like all the things that are happening in it, there's a lot of airtime for DEI work and inclusive work. The way I look at it is the diversity. The reason I use the word diversity is because diversity is about all of us. It includes every person. The challenge is we've approached it in a way that leaves people out. And which is why I talked about the inclusion part. And I think you're spot on for talking about inclusion, because if you get the diversity and you do this in a way that it allows you to be inclusive and then bring everyone in, that's the thing that creates the kind of synergies that we're looking for. Because everybody wants to create an environment where you can be your best self in your company. So
Absolutely. And something to note, and again, it's not really what this is for, although if you do want a webinar like this, please put it in the comments here, is it's like, what does diversity mean? It means something different to every single person, every single team, every single leader,
yeah,
every single CEO. And I think that as a recruiter, that's really important to sit back and realize, oh, okay, I get it.
yeah,
I need to dig. You
yeah.
have to dig. You have to do the work. And I think sometimes people are not comfortable to dig as well, which is its own separate issue. And something that I do enjoy talking about, I'm sure you talk about a lot. And I know you wrote a book, or you're in the process of writing a book.
I wrote a book. It's called The
Wrote a book.
Diversity Recruiting Blueprint. Right.
There you go. There you go. I definitely got to get that. We'll link it here as well. But would love to, really dig into how you built a special a GPT, right, for sourcing or having a plan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've built a number of GPTs to do all kinds of things. One of the ones that I built is one that allows you to create a sourcing strategy, and it walks you through creating that sourcing strategy. It's a custom GPT that I built because I couldn't find one, and it walks you through. It asks you about the industry. It asks you about the role. It actually gets to the point where it asks you about diversity pipeline and how you want to create that in Boolean search string. So it kind of goes through that entire process. And it also flags and says, hey, look, remember, if you're using these diversity terms, you also need to be mindful that this is just one part of inclusive hiring, inclusive sourcing. And so I've kind of built that in thinking about it. And one of the tricks is I've uploaded a copy of my diversity recruiting blueprint book into the GPT. So you can ask it questions about things that I'm not going to cover when we go over the demo,
Right.
but the knowledge is there.
Oh, so you full blown trained, like basically your bot has read your book.
It's read my book. It's read articles. It's read other things that I've put in there, right? That's the power of ChatGPT and in some of the other platforms, but that's the power of being able to tell it what you want, because the way we're going to get the generative AI to be less biased is to give it information that allows it to train, because it doesn't care. It doesn't have a person. It's not personal. It's, I just use what I know.
Yeah. There's no emotion there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which there's not one human being without emotion. Otherwise, we're not a human being.
Exactly right.
Who knows what?
Exactly
Okay, cool.
right.
So I would love to see this. I know the audience would love to see this in firsthand. Show us how we can do this. Now, remember, everyone, if you have questions throughout, please put them there. But Cody is an expert at this. Has built ChatGPT. So let's see.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to. Okay, so I've got my screen shared. Everybody see my screen?
We see it.
So given the amount of time we have, I won't be able to walk through some of the things that I think are critical for the base ChatGPT, but I'm going to walk you through. These are some that I've already built, these custom GPTs. I built one, a custom diversity sourcing GPT, which I will call in this GPT. So I'm going to go to this one. It's called Cody Sourcing GPT. And just real quickly, you can, if I click here, I can edit this GPT, and I'll just give you a peek into the back end of this. When I edit, it's got the title, you can give it the description, and then it's got all this information that you would see that these are just instructions that I've given ChatGPT to go through. Now, most people won't have one this long, but it's got all these instructions. The reason I wanted to show you the instructions is because there are lots of things that you can do with this that you don't even think about in the normal prompting. And then a couple of other things I want to show you on this is, here's the knowledge session. I've uploaded a diversity sourcing primer here. So it's a primer with all kinds of Boolean search strings and lots of information and guidance on how you do diversity sourcing. And so those are the things that are a little bit on the back end, and maybe we do a session on the back end. If I have time at the end of this, I'll do that as well. So I'm going to go back.
Quick question. If you go back to that screen real quick, just because I know some people haven't really used ChatGPT at all. And so go all the way down, walk us through.
Okay.
Keep going down. Keep going down. All the way. No, sorry. All the way down. There we go. With the capabilities.
Yes.
Walk us through those three things.
Yeah. You can upload any file that you have. Here, this allows it to go out and browse the web, because sometimes you give ChatGPT that message that says, "Oh, I can't do the I'm a large language model, I can't look at the internet," but it can. So this allows it to do the web. This allows you to generate images, and so you could tell it to give me an image, and it'll create an image for you. And then this code interpreter, this will actually allow, and if you look here, it allows the GPT code to run, and it also gives the ability for people this to do math, do analysis, all kinds of things. And if you've got this enabled, people can also download things that you want.
Mhm.
And then there's a section down here for creating new actions. You can have code here. You can actually use something like Zapier to integrate with other sites. So if you've got something on your website, you could do that. They're not super complicated, and you'd be surprised at the things you could do. In fact, you could use ChatGPT to help you learn how to do some of these things. And then there's some additional settings down here that allow you to just have more conversations and really do more data interpretation and improve. This is giving information back to OpenAI so they can actually improve their models.
Love it.
And the one thing I want to call out also is I'm on the configure tab because I've already built this GPT, but you could click the create and it will walk you through creating a GPT just like an interview. So you could build your first GPT and get stepped through it step by step with ChatGPT. So,
What I look at this as is like, when you build a sequence. So like, obviously like the more times you reach out to candidates, clients, whatever, the better your chances. I mean, there's tons of data there. So I
yeah,
particularly believe in 7-step sequences. So
yeah.
like anytime I use like you build a sequence once and you have its framework, and this is essentially you doing the same thing. So you're not constantly having to essentially repeat yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I've done in here is I've actually given ChatGPT, I said, look, this is your role, act like a recruiter in whatever industry. The way I've written this GPT is so it's going to ask you for the industry. So this is industry agnostic. You could give it any industry. But you want to give it the role, you want to give it the context of what you're looking for. In my case, I wanted to give it a goal. Here's your goal. And then I want it to be able to ask questions and move through. And then the other thing that's really important is I want to be able to give it the format. I told it to give me a certain format, and this GPT will export to a PowerPoint. It'll export to a Microsoft Word document. And one of the things that I use as a trick in GPT is what I have it do is I have it wait for input before moving to the next prompt, because that
Okay. So,
allows
so why
it
do you
to
do that?
ask you
Yes.
questions. Yeah, while it's stepping through the process, and you'll see this, it's waiting for input. So it may seem a little bit slow, but it's
Got it.
designed to be an interactive tool that's intentional about where we're asking for information. Now, the ChatGPT is also, if it makes sense, it's going to ask you a question to clarify. But there are certain spots here where I wanted it to wait for the user input, like the role, the industry, and those kinds of things.
I love that. I didn't actually realize you could train it to wait for you essentially.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that because the way I roll through it is like then I'll just kind of use like the edit pencil above and be like, oh wait, you didn't understand this, and I'll kind of like go back and forth. And
Yeah,
it's almost funny. It's like you're having a conversation with someone. And you're like, hey, stop speaking over me.
yeah.
You're interrupting me. So this literally then is like you cannot interrupt me.
That is spot on. It just waits for you to give it the information, and sometimes it forgets what it's doing, right? Because it's thinking and it's going the logical way that it thinks it needs to go, and it might skip a step, and so you just ask for it, and it'll give it to you, give you the information that you want.
I love this. And so for the audience, real quick, before we move forward, I would love to know who has never created or configured a GPT. If you've never done that, put in the comments GPT, because I'm assuming I'm going on a limb here saying 90% of the people have not created their own GPT. This is big. This is huge. It's massive. I love it.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's huge. And then if this thing is in the way, you can just use the sidebar and you can close it and get all those things off the side. Because sometimes people are like, oh, it doesn't give me my full screen. And it's some of those simple things that we don't even think about
Mhm. Love
that
it.
make
All
a
right,
difference.
let's see it.
All right. So I gave this a conversation starter. I said, hey, let's get started. And so I just clicked the button and it's gonna get started. And now it's asking me, okay, it's asking me, hey, what industry are we focusing on? So I'm gonna say technology.
Yeah.
And sorry you have to watch me type. That's not the most exciting thing on the planet.
Well, for some
So
reason, when someone watches you type, you can't type.
You cannot type. That's exactly it. And so it's thanking me for the industry. Now it's asking me for the job title. So I'm going to say software developer. A lot of people are doing that.
Mhm.
But you can do any industry, any role on this. It's the way it's built. And so now it's asking me um, um, to upload a job description. So I could copy and paste a job description here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually click this little paper clip, and I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste in, I'm going to upload. So I've uploaded a software developer job description, and then I'm going to have it go to the next thing. And once it's analyzing that job description, it's seeing, hey, what is this about? And now it's going to give me information on the job description.
Mhm.
But before it moves forward, I've set it up so it's asking, hey, do you want to check this job description for bias to make sure it's as inclusive as possible?
I
So
love that.
on this one, if I say yes, I can say why or yes or anything that's in the affirmative. It
Mhm.
knows it and it's going to move forward. So it's looking at the language, it's going through and it's giving me some feedback on the job description. And I don't know how long this is going to take, but it's
Yeah.
going to go through, give me feedback on the job description. And then I can make an adjustment to make this job description more inclusive. So it's gone through that and it's made some recommendations. And it's asking me if I would like to modify the job description accordingly. And if I say yes, it'll rewrite the job description to integrate changes. I'm going to say no. Actually, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say no because I'm going to just move it forward.
As
Right.
we're moving forward, do you mind though going up a little bit just so we can all just read real quickly to see what it did pick up? Because I know
Yeah.
biases are something that we've been talking about a lot. It's always on top of mind when it comes to AI tools and stuff like that. But what I really liked about it, but it says be hands-on and
Yeah.
dive deep might be seen as favoring candidates who prefer certain styles of interaction or problem solving. And
Yeah.
I thought that that's really interesting because that takes things even, I think, deeper
Yeah.
really than maybe a hiring manager or even a recruiter would think like, oh, well, wait, like this is a hands-on, we want someone to dive deep in. Well, it's like, well, we didn't think about maybe we
Yeah.
don't want to say it like that. So I would love actually, I mean, I know it's not this time. I would love to know how they did change that
Yeah.
personally.
I can do
Um,
it. I can go back and make it do that if that would make
No,
sense.
no, no, but no, because I know this is that you have a lot here. And then another thing that I know a lot of TA leaders have been talking about is having a must-have versus nice to have.
Yes. Yeah.
That's definitely in debate right now as to like what works. And then there's some companies that are going as far as to have extremely small job descriptions because they want a bigger pool of people. And then they're now seeing, wow, wait a minute, soft skills sometimes trump hard skills. So could we just go ahead and train people, within, 1 to 3 months, and all of a sudden now they're a better candidate than we were looking for 6 months,
Yeah.
So I think all those things are really interesting. I love it.
Those are major points, and they make all the sense in the world. And so those are things to keep in mind as you're doing the work. So the other thing is, so I've set this up so that it asks you, hey, can you provide the top 3 must-have qualifications? Because I want this thing focused on the must-haves, not the nice-to-haves. And ChatGPT picked that up. So I'm going to add some top 3 skills. I'm going to add AWS. I'll add Google Cloud, and I'll add Azure.
Something to note here too, again, when talking to hiring managers, this actually, what are the 3 must-haves? So as you're
Yeah,
talking to hiring managers, I think just as you prompted it, it's exactly how we speak to hiring managers.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. This can be used in coordination with your hiring manager, so you get those things. And if you know the role well, that makes a difference. So it's gone through, and I'm going to scroll back up so you can see this. But it's gone through, and it's created this long list, right, of must-haves based on the job description and based on what I gave it, right? It put
Right.
in the things I gave it, and then it put in all these other things that it pulled as requirements from the job description. And it's prompting to wonder, hey, are these the most important keywords? Would you like to add additional? Well, no, I'm going to say select the top. I'm just going to use the top 5 here.
Okay.
A lot of times I try to narrow this down to 3, but I'll tell it to select the top 5. And so it's going to go through and it's going to give me 5 of those keywords so that I can have a little bit better and a broader pool, right? The more keywords, the narrower the pool, which is counterproductive to inclusive sourcing. And to your point earlier, you want a broader pool so that you can see more people. So does this does this capture everything? I'll say yes. And so I'm going to say, yes, it does. And it's going to move us to the next step. And in the next step, it's going to, hey, let me create a Boolean search string for you. So it's going through and it's creating a Boolean search string based on the must-haves that I just gave it. And then I could copy as that's going and producing. There's a copy option here, so I could copy this and paste it into a search window, into Google, into Bing, and wherever I want to put it, into LinkedIn, into my favorite tool. These Boolean search strings won't be perfect, so you may have to make some adjustments. But one of the things is it's created this based on the job description and the must-haves, and now it's asking me, would I like to include diversity-focused keywords in the search string? And I made a point to say, hey, look, remember with this stop sign, you can give it an emoji. So I had it give me an emoji that looks like a stop sign and said, remember, using diversity keywords is just part of the process to be inclusive. Sourcing broadly to include everyone is also critical. And so I'm going to tell it to yes. I'm saying yes. I want to include some diversity keywords in this. I'm gonna fish in all the pools, which is why I'm comfortable giving it some diversity keywords. And so it's given me some diversity keywords for organizations that are associated with technology. And so it's going to give me those, and it's incorporated those into the Boolean search string. So now it's created a Boolean search string with diversity keywords that allow me to be more targeted in every pool that I'm going to fish in. And the key is to remember to fish in all the pools.
To fish in all the pools. So let me ask everyone that's listening. I feel kind of strongly about this, but how many sourcing techniques do you feel you need to have? I would love to see that there, because we're talking about fishing different pools, which means different strategies, different techniques. There's all sorts of stuff. Would love to hear how many sourcing strategies, because there is definitely not just one way to fill a role.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great point. And it's asking me, do I want to add more diversity focused information? I could continue to do this. I'm going to say no. I'm going to just do an N for no. And then it's going to move through, and now it's going to move forward and setting this up. And what it's doing right now is I didn't give it a candidate profile. So it's creating a general profile of what a candidate might look like. And it's giving me a table of the kinds of things I might look for that candidate, right? And it's given me places to go and all those things because I didn't give it a candidate. It's just taking it based on the information that I provided. And then it's going to give me some ideas around places I could go to look for candidates: LinkedIn, Indeed, Zing, and it talks about others. You could expand on that if you wanted to, and you probably have your go-to places. What I'm encouraging people, and this aligns with the question that you asked, is don't just go to your go-to places. Find other places and broaden the organizations and the places that you go to search for candidates, because that's how you're going to be more inclusive as you go through. And so it's asking me would I like to create the initial sourcing strategy for the role. So I'm going to tell it yes. Now what it's going through is it's looking at our conversation and it's pulling information that is going to allow us to create this step-by-step sourcing strategy. So it's producing a sourcing strategy based on the role. This one's going to be high level, but it's also including competitor companies in there. It's including the Boolean search string. in addition to, and it's including the diversity focused search strings as well. And then it's giving you some advice on, hey, here's some professional organizations based on some of the things that were in there for diversity. And then it's talking about networks. And so this is an actual sourcing strategy that's being generated that we do every time we do a search. And so every search would have its own search strategy. And then by following this, so it's like, hey, would you like to format it? So we've created this sourcing strategy that literally you could go, okay, now how do I get that into a format that I can edit and use and show to my hiring manager and talk to them on? And what I'm going to say, it's a, hey, do you want this formatted in Microsoft Word or a PowerPoint presentation? You could pick others. So I'm going to say, yes, Word. So I'm asking it to, I'm telling it, yeah, create this thing. So it's going to go through, take the strategy, put it into a Word document, and then I'm going to be able to export and open it and edit and use that sourcing strategy as a tool that I can go to with my hiring manager. And if you've already got a template, you could use your template. But this is a way to get that template and then use it and reuse it or modify it and edit it. And it's taken a little bit longer because it's having to find the information and put it into the document.
Yeah, no, I love this for so many reasons, especially if you are earlier on in your recruiting career as well, because developing a sourcing strategy, takes a lot of confidence and it takes doing your homework, right? It takes a lot of conversations with hiring managers. And as we just saw, like how quickly you're able to grasp and learn and feel probably pretty confident to talk to the hiring manager about this, because at the end of the day, that's definitely that conversation, right? You always have to have a conversation with the hiring manager, because in my opinion, you don't start sourcing until that happens. On my side of the coin, I do a sourcing map, which is essentially, looking through what the current team is, what they already told me, finding outliers, and I kind of bring that to the table as well. So to have both documents puts yourself, really a seat at the table, I feel.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And if you are an experienced and seasoned recruiter and you already have a template for your sourcing strategy, put the sourcing strategy template in the knowledge section of the custom GPT and use that. And it's going to use that as knowledge to walk you through and let you be able to think of things that you might not have otherwise thought about. And
Yes.
so it's created this Word document. So if I can click this link, open the document and download the document. So if I click that, it started download, and I could literally open this document and use the document that just got created as a tool. I'll just drag it over here and see if we
Yeah, I
can
would love to
see
see
it.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just get it over.
And wondering, I mean, I haven't even seen it yet, but can you already have like your company logo on it? Like, can you upload your logo and say, hey, every document I want you to spit out, I want to have on my logo?
I'm sure you can. I haven't tried that. That's another
Yeah.
great use case. But are you able to see the document?
I don't see it now.
Okay, let's see.
I only see the ChatGPT, the download.
I'm wondering if I did not share the window,
Oh,
but I'll
okay.
make sure everybody has this. But it lists all the things. It's got all the Boolean search strings, so you could literally just take the sourcing document and copy it and use it, and you can paste the Boolean search strings and all the things that would go into that. And so we're gonna have to have a little bit of faith here, but we'll get the document to use to everyone.
I believe you. I think everybody believes you.
Yeah.
But what I like that you touched on is like the junior and senior levels have why this is so powerful for both levels. So even on the senior where it's like, look, I get it. I have my strategy. Like I do this really quick, like do it in my sleep sometimes, and done it for that long, right? But how is it sustainable to pick how many jobs can you do at once? I think that's like how, like, I don't know, like for me, 3 to 5, I should say. Could you do more? Yes, right? But if they're all so different, how many can you do really well? And then I'm also thinking like, holy moly, for someone that's leading a team, this is massive. This is how you get everyone up to speed, regardless of level,
Yeah.
super, super, super fast. And that's agency or internal. But I'm getting the money chills over here because obviously I'm agency, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, to just deploy, because I have actually this search right now for 5 staff level software engineers, right? And it's a little bit of a hard, or it's a lot of bit of a hard search.
Yeah.
Not many of them. And so I have 3 recruiters that I separately have to talk to
Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I already have my sourcing strategy. I've already have people in process. Like, this is just a cool way to do this. And it's not manual. It's just you set it up once and
Yeah.
then you tweak it. Right. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and take this question, because actually that was one of my questions that I had when I was first getting into ChatGPT. But it is, how can I go back and check the previous prompts?
Yeah, you can go, well, you can scroll up and check the prompts. Or in the beauty of the custom GPT is you could go in and check your prompts by seeing what did I ask it to do and just clicking on the edit, right? You can go to the edit and you can see what prompt did I give this, and do I need to take it out, or do I need to change it, or do I need to do something different with the prompt? And the trick to this is it's a little hard to see here because you're in this little window. You can just expand it here and it will show you all the prompts. So
Yeah.
that's one way to go back and check those prompts.
So this is definitely for everyone listening. What Cody is doing here is absolutely advanced GPT in order to make this. But obviously, you saw it's actually not that scary. It's fairly easy to do. It's just not many people can do it or knows that they could do it. But a way to answer that question as well is you can, if you're just talking to it in real time, there is that. Can you show that the pencil? How
Yeah.
you can change the prompts as well,
Yeah.
because there's lots of times where, like, I definitely have my GPTs for my sequences, right? So like for all different roles in biz dev and stuff like that. But sometimes it doesn't get it right, because as we know, GPT is not that it's not
Yeah.
you have to read it, right? You have to put in your own nuances. And I will say, lots of times it has so many filler sentences, which drives me nuts. So I'm
Yeah.
constantly having to like reprompt, even though like I've trained this thing, you're constantly having to do this. Um,
Yeah.
and I like to do it with the pencil,
Yeah.
in order to change, yeah, exactly, to
You
change
could
what I
literally go here and change this prompt
mhm.
using the pencil. You can add anything. And if you once you change it and you say save and submit, it's going to change the output. So you're not going to have to scroll, change it, and then scroll. It'll change the output that you just got. And so that's another way to edit those prompts. So great point, Brianna.
Yeah. So have you ever now, because that now, of course, I can't help but think, next step, next step, next step, because
Yeah.
a sourcing strategy is one massive thing. And that's what, again, is going to set us all apart, because there's so many different ways to source, right? You want to find the people that essentially don't want to be found.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's how you also boost your outreach messages. But now, have you ever done sourcing strategy to outreach message all in one thing?
Yeah, I haven't done I could literally do that here, right?
Yeah,
I haven't done it in one because I was trying to keep this from growing so much. But
right.
literally, as part of the strategy, I could tell it to add a initial outreach message to software developers who aren't looking to get a job, right? And it'll create one. And to your point earlier, we can tell it the tone. We can do those things. I could literally do a prompt here that says add a initial outreach message or a follow-up message. I could keep this and I could say, give me key talking points for a salary negotiation for software developers who are highly compensated and not looking to move, but they agreed to go through the process, right? So there's so many things that we could do with this that are allow you to think, because it did all the rote work. You can think and it'll give you those things too. And there's some things that work really well. So
Yeah, I love that. And you know what's interesting? You just like sparked my brain here. Is messaging, should it be different for passive versus active candidates?
yeah, no, it's that's a great question for ChatGPT.
Yeah,
I
let's
mean,
ask
my answer is yes, it should be different. But you can ask it that question. Hey, I've got active candidates and I've got passive candidates. What should my message be for both populations? And it'll give you ideas, and you can go, oh, that's actually a good idea. So you can model the power of this generative AI is you can model what you're looking for and just kind of play with it in a little bit more of a safe environment, and then you could just A/B test it and try it, and
Mhm.
that's the key. Now I want to show one more thing. I want to show another thing. There's so many features here, but there's a thing called mentions. So if you do the @ sign, which I've got the @ sign here,
Mhm.
mentions allow you to call other GPTs. So when I type the @ sign, it's going to bring up some of the GPTs that I've already used. I
Okay.
use this one called whimsical diagrams. And what I'm going to ask it to do, so now I can stay in the thread that I'm already in without
Mhm.
switching over to a different GPT. I can stay in the thread, and then I can have a conversation with the whimsical diagrams. And I'm going to say, create a flow chart of the process.
Ooh, okay. So this is for all you visual learners and presenters out here. This is super interesting. While this is cooking up, and which is actually really fast, please put in the comments, do you believe passive and active candidates deserve different messaging? And do you do that? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that I'm curious to test this with ChatGPT afterwards too. I'd
Yes,
love
no,
to.
yeah, I can't wait. That's why I wanna ask them first because,
That's
it's
right.
actually it's not really something that I thought of too terribly much, but, on LinkedIn Recruiter, it makes it very simple to go active versus passive. Now, of course, some people that don't turn on that button, they could be actively looking, right? We don't know, and as we
Yeah.
also know as recruiters that the moment you talk to them, I feel like they're actively looking, whether or
Yes.
not you're the first person they talk to. But it's interesting because normally I craft my message based off of it being like a very appealing or they must know more. It's more of like an enticing message. But you're right, I agree with you now that they should get different messages because active needs to move what's in it for me. Okay, cool, here we go.
Yeah.
you know
No, that's exactly right. So what I just did is I asked it to create a flow chart of the process, and here's the flow chart. It created the flow chart of what we did, right? Define the roles. I mean, most recruiters already know this, but
Sure.
what if you don't? And what if it's a new process that you just created and you want to know what you did? And so here's what it walked through this whole process, and it created this for me. Um, so the point here is I ask it to do a flow chart. It could do lots of other things, and it'll let you view those diagrams, download those diagrams, and anything else. And that's just because I use the mentions feature to call this custom GPT from the GPT store, which everyone would have access to.
Yeah.
And I can stop talking to that. Now I'm back to my original thread. I could call any GPT here. I could call a research. There's one called Consensus. It's a research GPT that I could ask it for certain research information or any other information that I need to ask for.
This is I hope everyone feels this, and I would love the, like, "Oh, woohoo," or whatever in the chat, whatever you want. I don't even know how to spell that. But, like, this is definitely advanced AI in its finest because I also do not think most people know you can call on other, AI in ChatGPT. Like, you would think, like, they're not friends, right?
Yeah, that's
They're
exactly.
friends. Again, they don't have emotions, right? This is massive. This is honestly but this is mind blowing to me. I've definitely played with GPT for a long time, and I have learned at least 5 things just in this session. So thank you.
That's awesome. I'm really glad. And one of the things that may frustrate, I want to caution people because you will run out of tokens. ChatGPT is
Mm.
only going to give you, even the paid version, you're only going to get so many questions, that prompts that you can do. I don't know if it's 40 or if it's 50 or what the number is, but there are other generative AI platforms that I use, like Claude 3,
Mhm.
Bar or Gemini, which is the Google one. Copilot, which is Microsoft, U.com, which is another one that you could use. All of those, you can use those for things that you may not want to use all your Chat GPT tokens on, and it'll give you more things to think about. I just use my generative AI advisory group to do those things. But I love doing this. It's really exciting, and I'm super. I hope someone takes away at least one thing that they can use for using ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, there's again probably recruiters of all different levels, but I'm even thinking as a leader, I am absolutely positively using this flow chart. And I work normally from like seed to Series B companies, and a lot of them don't even have their recruiting processes, organized, like making a job description, inclusive is like or like what is the process of what do you do? And I think that what's really cool about seeing this flow chart, and although it might look elementary to people who have done this for a while, are like, yeah, of course, that's what you do. This actually, if the hiring managers are not recruiters, they do not know what we do. They do not know that there is a process that we go. I love this, and now I can't wait to see what you're doing now. But I think this is massive. So as you are training your recruiters, your sourcers and stuff, I mean, this is absolutely something that appeals to so many different learning types. Recruiters are more kinesthetic learners, so we need all of it, right? Like this is great. Love.
Yeah. What I did is something, it's whenever you're doing live demos and you try something you never tried before, it's always risky. But I just said, hey, make the flow chart more complex. So who knows what we're going to get out of this,
Right.
Brianna.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
this.
So we will see. But there is a lot of power in being able to have something that does the grunt work for you.
Uh,
That's the power in using ChatGPT and generative AI platforms. And then the recruiter and the sourcer can do the things that they do best. And we're really creative, right? We
mhm.
don't know all the answers to a role, but we learn it in a creative way. And that's what this generative AI does. It allows us to get better at what we already do.
Yes, I love this. Okay, I have perhaps a controversial question for you. Gonna hit you with it. Do you feel recruiters in its entirety should be called diversity recruiters, or do you feel like that's just one of our superpowers? Because, like when you said, we should always be searching in all pools.
Yeah. If I had my way, I would scrap the term diversity recruiter.
Mm,
Um, and the reason I say that is because if we all are focused on finding diverse talent to create an inclusive hiring process,
mhm,
we don't need to call it out. The reason I continue to call it out is because in order to get it to be top of mind, until it's top of mind, I use the word so that we can get people focused.
mhm.
And we just have to change the narrative of what diversity is. It's about all of us and all the differences. And that's what allows us to create that inclusivity. I don't know if that
I
answered the question.
totally answered the question until it is top of mind, and I honestly don't know when that will happen. If I'll see it in my recruiting career, I doubt.
Yeah.
I got 5 years left. No, just kidding. But no, I mean, I think about it because, from a KPI perspective, how many, and again, I want to hear from the audience here. How many people have specific KPIs for diversity sourcing, for diversity candidates, outreach? I mean, that there's tons of that. Like I would say most companies that I deal with, I hear 20 to 30% of outreach has to be to diverse candidates. And that might be like, come on, like this is a whole thing, not just a movement. But you have to start somewhere. So yeah, I definitely see the controversy, with it for sure. But I like where your head's at because that's where we need to go. I just don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet, and it's one of those things where, um, because of the environment that we're in, and some of the changes that have been made, and the proactive focus on eliminating diversity and DEI and focus work, uh, what I would suggest is you can work on your pipeline and your channels, and not necessarily call out the metrics, but know that your goal is to fish in all the pools and
Mhm,
to get a representative um, sampling of all the talent so that you're inclusive. So using diversity focus terms, using generic professional related and skills
mhm,
related terms, those are the things that are going to allow us to continue to move forward. Because a lot of people are nervous about having a diversity target,
right.
uh, and there's a lot of noise about that. So if you are in that kind of, oh, I'm in a risk environment, then continue to do the work, but you don't always have to use the metrics that say, here's what we accomplished, right? I know that everyone says if you don't measure it,
Yep.
it doesn't get done. Uh,
Precisely what I was jamming on. I was like, we hear this all the time.
That's exactly it. But that may be if the work is really getting done, you'll see the results over time because it's not going to happen overnight, right? We just need more time to make the work happen and modify the way we approach the work to be fully inclusive and not exclusive. And I think that's the thing that's gonna make a difference. And this is just on the sourcing side. There's a whole nother episode on the, okay, now I've got these people. How do I assess them in an in a non-biased way and give everybody a fair opportunity?
Which is its own separate training, like big time. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, I do
Inclusive?
yep, I do a diversity sourcing workshop, an inclusive interview workshop, a way to help recruiters and sourcers expand where they're looking for the talent, and a diversity and inclusion strategy workshop as well. And I know you spend a lot of time on this topic and in your expertise. I think that's how I found you in the first place.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. No, I mean, like you've lived and breathed this for again 20 years. I didn't get my chief diversity license until I think it was for me like 5 or 6 years ago. And the reason why I bring that up is not because it wasn't always on top. Actually, I'll call myself up. It wasn't always on top of mind because as an agency recruiter, I go after what I'm asked for.
Yeah.
Right. I look at agency recruiters as a hired gun.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get as accurate, they're perfect, unicorn, purple score, whatever you want to call it, candidate as possible, right? Like that's our job. And so when I started getting asked what I felt was not ethical, that's when I went to go seek education.
Right.
And that's when I did get my certification, stuff like that. And that is when it became top of mind. But I am in nowhere near. Like I remember, I'm getting the chills for some reason. But I remember thinking to myself, "Isn't this like about being a good person?" Like that was my initial reaction, right?
Yeah.
But things were really bothering me of asks that I was getting, and so I was like, "No, this is more than that." So when I was in that room, and it was a whole week and 8 hours, every day, and I was thinking to myself, I left that exhausted mentally, and I
Yeah.
was like, this is so much more than that. Goes so much deeper. This is going to take a whole long time. And this is going to be me telling clients they need to do better. And I'm not the hired gun for that ask.
Right.
I'm not going to be the one that's going to go find their woman engineering manager when they have no other women on the team. Like I'm not that, I'm not going to be that recruiter. And I will tell you that's a really hard decision to make. That's a business decision, but it's also a moral decision, but again, if we don't at least say something, nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And what got me into this diversity, I know we're almost at time, but what got me into being passionate about diversity and inclusion recruiting is I benefited from someone being intentional about broadening where they were looking for talent. And they found me and it changed my life. And I've committed to do the same thing for other people, certainly with the company and now with this business that I'm working on, and even sharing things like this ChatGPT model. I want to empower people to change their lives and create sustainable change in the talent acquisition industry, if at all possible.
I love that. And I know I personally would love to do more of these with you to watch in real time, because here's another thing. Your mind is what built that GPT. My mind's going to build a different GPT because I have different strategies. And I think that's what's like so cool about it is that you have the power to make your life easier in any capacity that you want, or any kind of strategy, or any, and I think what's really cool too about strategies is if you can, redo them like all the time, like duplicate them, then it becomes more of a like, I feel strongly. Then when you go in and you're like, you know what? Today I realized this sourcing strategy isn't working. I'm going to go in and change this bot. And so we're still learning. It's not like you set it and forget it. It's not a crock pot. That's always my thing. Set it, forget it.
Yeah.
We're not crock pots, right? And so that's what's really cool on how easy we just saw that you can edit it, change strategies, or even, hey, my client wants XYZ. Okay, yeah. All right, here, we're going to change that sourcing strategy to do what this client wants.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've just loved having the opportunity to spend with you and talk about it and share any little bit of knowledge that'll help. But I encourage people, just try it. Take one
Correct.
step and try it. There's no way you could break anything. And if you need something, there are plenty of people out who can help. And I'm always happy to personally help anyone that possibly can.
Yes. No, thank you so much, Cody. Now, if any questions, we have little 2 minutes or whatever, feel free to put in there. But I will say, I know there's going to be a slew. I'm sure people are going to be hitting you up like crazy. And I know when you were on the podcast, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know it did that. It does that. What I think is really powerful, I'll leave them with my 2 cents on the GPT, because I do see and feel a lot of fear from people when it comes to this tool, on like, how do we do it? What do we do? Like so many what ifs. And again, I love that you said, just try it. But what's cool is that you can talk to it.
Yeah.
You can use the app on your phone, whatever, and you can say what you want, because I know when we're talking about outreach messages, sometimes you can talk about what you want to say a lot easier than you can type it. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, stall when it comes to this, and yet they can flow, verbally. So
Yeah.
I think that it can be a really cool tool to do the talk to text system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. No, I think it's great. And I just have to give you the heart, right? Because I love what you're doing, and thank you for having me on here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we did put these QR codes, Cody is going to start, you're going to start selling these GPTs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But you're involved in so much. So I'll give you the floor for the next 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just thrilled about some of the training, some of the talks that I've been able to do. I met with a bunch of bankers yesterday and we talked about what small businesses need, and what people who are hiring need. And my goal is to use the sourcing work, the inclusive interviewing, the inclusive strategies, and all those things, and to get this next book out. Those are the things that I'm looking to do, and I'm really open and thrilled for any feedback, good and bad, right? It's there's challenges. I see some comments in the chat that I'd love to be able to address and take a look at, and really kind of come up, because none of us know all the answers,
Yeah.
and we're learning every day. And I saw somebody post today on LinkedIn about just being kind as we approach
Mhm.
each other, and that's part of the equation. And so if I can do anything to help someone, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love how committed and passionate and authentic you are. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who is listening. We're definitely going to be putting this recording out, because this was a lot. And I hope you know that every time we show up, we dig and we really show you some cool stuff that you can use today, right now, right where you got off. So let us know, hit us up, if you have questions or if you have implemented this, and it has worked out for you, because that's the cool stuff too. Like, I know, being a trainer and like yourself, I'm sure like those aha moments, like those mean a lot. Like we want to know, did we aha you, and that's important, because we're really using this stuff. We're really trying it. This is in our day to day. This is our blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
that. All right. Well, thank you
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have an awesome day.
Thanks a
Talk
lot.
soon.